second time we've been to the Netherlands, and it is by far one of my favorite countries in Europe. So thank you for having me back. I appreciate it. Let's talk about code. How many of you have looked at this today? Right. How many of you have looked at it on your phone? So here's the thing about conferences. This thing is important because it tells you where you're supposed to be, right? Because you're not going to memorize it all. You're not going to be like conference or 1, then 8, then 7. Every time you get up, you're going to look at your phone again, figure out where you're supposed to go next. How many of you are connected to the conference Wi-Fi? It seems like it's actually been pretty good. So props to the Techarama organizers, because for the most part, they've done a good job. All too often, when I'm at a conference, I get a schedule, and instead of the schedule, I get the dinosaur game. Have you guys ever played the dinosaur game? Right. So, funny story, I have 3 children. My youngest is 12. He has a Nintendo Switch. We have a PlayStation in the basement. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of games. I have witnessed him turn off Wi-Fi on his laptop so you can play the dinosaur game. You guys paid good money to come. You probably better get ready. All right, I have to understand the room before I get started with this. I'm going to make an assumption, but I'm not going to make an assumption. I'm going to ask, who in the room would classify themselves as a .NET developer? The vast majority of the room. This is a pretty heavily .NET event, so do I have any Java developers? Do I have any, let's say, Python developers? Ruby developers? Legacy code? Anybody at all, right? Do you get to go back every couple of years when the frameworks change? You get to go back and wholesale rewrite everything you've built? No. So don't make excuses, right? Let's talk about kind of how to get there. All right. So who has heard the phrase? I'm sure most of you have. Solid. Right. Many of you. And so I'll recap a little bit just for those of you who are here. So the purpose of this talk is we're going to take these principles that you may have applied in your .NET code, and we're going to
documentation. You look at the two of them together, and you can actually learn quite a lot about it. Now, one of the nice things about Azure Machine Learning Studio is once you have the model prepared, that is, you've imported the data, you've cleaned the data, you've chosen a learning algorithm, all you have to do.
She needed to polish something. She had a couple of days to go back to the dev team and say, I need this to be a little bit different. This really doesn't meet our expectations. And they had a couple of days to just go rev on that and then ship out the product. So it was really neat. We didn't intend the video to have that side effect, but it was a really fortunate side effect for us that it forced people to get things done. So this is what it looks like. I have an email rule looking for this particular alias that this sends to, and all these go filtered into a certain folder, and anytime I want to, I can go back and see them. This is just a work item query out of either TFS or Azure DevOps if you've used it before, and I can click on these links and actually go see more details about that particular work item, add comments if I want to, and make sure that if I depend on this team and I don't see my item in here, I can immediately send out an email and say, hey, we're trying to deliver something that depends on something that you don't have in your product backlog right now, in your sprint backlog. We need to go get that prioritized correctly so that we can get some work done, right? So it's really cool to be able to visualize that. And then 3 weeks from then, you basically get another email saying this is what we were actually able to deliver. So that's what our sprints look like. But people also wonder, how do we do our actual planning of our sprints? So we break down our world into different sizes. We know 3 years is too long, but we still need to have an idea of what is our North Star? What is it that we're trying to get to? And what we do is we come up with what we call an 18th month scenario. We basically say, okay, we are January 1st. Everything that we know, everything that we've read, what our competitors are doing, what we just heard at that conference, what our customers are asking for, where do we believe that we need to be feature-wise 18 months from now? What do we need to include? What's on the horizon? Do we have to have Docker support? Is Kubernetes going to win the orchestration war? What do we believe is going to be the case 18 months from now? We basically have these epics that we define that this is what we need 18 months from this very moment. Okay, great. Now let's break that down into 2 6-month seasons. Those 6-month seasons align with 2 major conferences that we have. One of them is Microsoft Build. Everyone's heard of Build? Right. So Microsoft Build is a really big conference, and we basically say, what do we want to announce at Build? And that defines our very first season. The second season historically has been Connect in November in New York. And it was like, what do we want Scott Guthrie to get on stage and say in November that this is what we're announcing, and that's our next season. So then we just start sprinting every 3 weeks. And then after 6 months, we basically do this again. Because we've learned over the last 6 months. The industry has changed over the last 6 months. Another 17 CI systems have popped up out of nowhere in the last 6 months, right? With features that we have to go decide if we want to implement or not. And what we do is say, okay, 18 months from now, knowing everything that we learned over the last 6 months, where do we need to be? Now, if you were to look 18 months into the past from where I'm standing right now, if we've only done 60% of what we thought we needed, that is a success because the world changes. We do not say 18 months ago we promised we were going to go do this and we're going to go do that now because we said so. Like, no, that's no longer relevant, right? Because the world has changed. So let's just go ahead and do what's important, and that's why we recast this every 6 months, okay? So that's how we basically do our planning. Now, what's not on this chart is a cool little meeting that happens every 3 sprints. I got to sit in one of these meetings. It was really cool. So again, I said, Aaron Bjork runs all of our work item tracking. So that's the Kanban board, our product backlog, our integrations. If it has anything to do with work items, Aaron owns that. And that's several teams. I think it's like 5 or 6 teams that Aaron runs that do all the work item tracking stuff. Every 3 sprints, or every 9 weeks, the leads get together and basically talk about what they plan to do for the next 9 weeks going forward. They have pizza, he gets all of his leads in a conference room, and they discuss the future. So I asked Aaron, can I please just be a fly on the wall in one of those meetings? Can you just add me to it? I'll dial in, and I'll listen. She says, absolutely, Donovan, no problem. So he did it. And they're in a room. I can hear them eating pizza. I'm sad because I'm not there physically. I'm not eating any pizza, but I can hear them talking and having a conversation. The first person says, all right, for the next 9 weeks, this is what my team intends to deliver. We're going to go build this cool little widget. And this widget's going to allow our customers to do X, Y, and Z. And another lead said, that's interesting. Because I'm pretty sure that one of my engineers just wrote a widget just like that. Why don't you have your engineer talk to my engineer and see if we could reuse the widget in multiple places? Imagine had we not had that meeting. We would have 2 widgets developed by 2 different people doing the exact same thing with their own variety of bugs and issues with it, because we did not have an opportunity to reuse each other's code because we didn't even know that they were doing it. So literally the first conversation that happened in that meeting instantly had value because the teams knew what the other teams were doing. We're able to reuse each other's code, which is really, really powerful. So find that opportunity for people to go back in and communicate. Another thing I want to point out before I get too far is find times to celebrate. When you sprint every 3 weeks and you never stop sprinting, it can feel like a death march. Like you're just on a treadmill that you can never get off. You need to find times to pat yourself on the back. You need to find times to relax and blow off steam and say, congratulations, you've been doing great over the last 6 months, 9 months, whatever that time is. But please find times to celebrate and reward yourselves for being really, really good at Scrum, really good at Agile, because it can feel like a treadmill sometimes. The 6-month seasons and the 18-month scenarios are owned by our leadership. So that's the higher executives in the organization. They own what that's supposed to be. This other part is completely owned by our dev teams. Okay, those engineering teams own that, and again, they are aligned autonomy. If you want to be Scrum, great. We got Scrum trainers to come in our organization. They trained everyone up and down to make sure we all said the exact same thing. But if you want to be more Kanban than Scrum, go for it. If you like paired programming, knock yourself out. If you want to do test-driven development versus writing the unit test after, go for it. But every 3 weeks, you better be ready to ship. We align by the sprint boundary, but you're completely autonomous on how you run your sprint. Some teams treat them as 3 one-week sprints. Perfectly okay. Aligned autonomy.